and was in a way redundant to the explanation of why they were the people they were and why they had the lives that they had. Now, it's different. You know, the first line of Midnight's Children originally was, I felt, somewhat too Tolstoyan, and so I removed it. It said, most of what matters in your lives takes place in your absence. I thought too much like Anna Karenina, and if there's one thing that Midnight's Children is not, it's not like Anna Karenina. So the line was, I buried it somewhere else, but what I meant is that this is now an important part of the world in which we live. Decisions taken in rooms whose existence we don't know about, by people whose faces we've never seen and whose names we will never know. Those decisions shape our lives. I mean, clearly, the financial crisis of last year is a dramatic example of this. People whose existence we didn't suspect, making gambles with the world's economy on a scale that we were unaware of, changed daily life for every one of us, more or less overnight. Now this changes something very fundamental in the art of the novel, because the art of the novel assumes that the things that shape your life are the things around you. The people who shape your life are the people you know. And beyond that even, your own character. You know, the great idea of Heraclitus several thousand years ago, when he said that a man's character is his fate. That character is destiny. The kind of life you have will be determined by the kind of person that you are. And that has been at the heart of the novel throughout its history. You know, whether it's Ahab obsessed with the whale, or Don Quixote with his various literary idiocies, or Bartleby preferring not to, or even Charlie Brown in the Peanuts comic strip, eternally doomed to lose. There's a sad but true story, I believe, that when Charles Schulz, the author of the Peanuts comic strip, decided to discontinue the strip some months before he died, his website received an enormous, I mean, like hundreds of thousands of requests for the same thing, which perhaps isn't too hard to guess, but it was that please, just once, before you stop drawing the strip, please let Charlie Brown kick the football. And, of course, he did not. Because if Charlie Brown kicked the football, he would cease to be Charlie Brown. And if Lucy was to stop pulling the football away at the last minute, she would cease to be Lucy. Their character is their destiny. And this has been at the heart of the act of creation. And yet now we find ourselves in an age when it is quite possibly the case that because of these external factors that affect our lives, that our characters no longer determine our fates. Now, I'm not saying that this has only just started being true. Obviously, there have been elements that have worked on our lives always. The element of chance, you know, the random event, whether it's an accident or a stroke of luck or a bomb dropping on your house or whatever it might be. There have been many factors, external factors, that have affected ordinary life. And what I'm saying is, it's never been so much the case that things which are out of our control shape the way we live. You know, in New York, when those planes flew into those buildings and killed those thousands of people, their characters were not their destinies. It didn't matter whether they were nice people or nasty people, whether they were good at their job or bad at their job, whether they were good or bad parents or whatever else they were. That nothing about their characters affected what happened to them. Something else determined their destiny externally. Now, how do you work with this? Because it's very hard, I think, to create a work of art which explains people only from the outside. You know? Because we distrust that. We want to believe that we ourselves are at the center of our own lives. And yet we find ourselves in a world in which that's not always the case. I wrestled with that, and interestingly, I came full circle. When I was writing my novel, Salman Rushdie, one of the subjects of that novel is the question of Islamic terrorism, and not just Islamic, but terrorism in general, because there's other forms of terrorism in that novel. What man pick up a gun or throw a bomb, or be prepared to kill other people, not for personal, but for, if you like, for ideological reasons. And it struck me that in the end, the old novelistic virtues were still the best way of understanding it. Because, put it like this, if you have in Kashmir, which is where that novel takes place, two people living next door to each other, two young men of the same age, to whom the same things are happening. I mean, that's to say, the same social, political, moral issues weigh on both of them equally. One of them becomes a man of violence, and the other one does not. If that were not true, then all of them would. But of course, that's not true. Some do, some don't. So why this man, not that man? Why is it that this person becomes violent, that person with the same provocations does not? And the answer, again, lies within. The answer is character. The answer is that certain people are able to make that decision, and other people, even under those provocations, or real or imagined provocations, do not make that decision. So it seems as if, even in that kind of a field, which is such a vexed field today, it still comes down to character, and your character determines your destiny. Some people make the choice, other people do not make the choice, and of course, choice is important because with choice comes moral responsibility. If you make the choice, then the responsibility for what follows is yours. I think the last thing to say about this is the relationship between us and the world in this very vexed time. I was recently in a discussion with two writers, both of whom come from very fraught parts of the world. Gioconda Belli, who actually was a member of the Sandinista revolution in Nicaragua, a great poet and novelist, and David Grossman, of course, from Israel, very much engaged in the issues of his part of the world, and indeed lost a son in one of the recent conflicts there. Interestingly, what they both said in different ways was that the novel and the world of art needs to preserve human values, perhaps even more particularly in a situation such as a war zone. That the need for human values does not diminish, that it actually increases. It becomes very easy in a time of war to start seeing the world in very broad strokes and in large generalizations, and seeing people as good and bad and friends and enemies and so on. And